built the organization Frontline Aid out of frustration with the way that the development sector operates. His goal is to make the lives of local actors and activists easier through the use of technology based on real-time data, design thinking, and lived experience. And so we're very excited to have him. But he built the organization Frontline Aid. So Tarek, if you're ready, I'd hand it over to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Well Grounded, and thank everybody for joining this session today. We gave $146 billion in aid last year. So let's feel good about that. The problem is we gave less than 1% of that money to local initiatives, the ones who stay after funding runs out. In the current system, it's easier to give 100 million to one large international organization than 10,000 to 10,000 local initiatives. They keep struggling to survive day by day. We have a cartel structure in the aid system because only a few large organizations are able to handle all that red tape. Let's use Ahmed as an example. He lives in a Zatri refugee camp and runs classes, dance classes with kids. Even girls can go because the community trusts him. He encourages students who have trouble at school. And when he finds out a boy is beating up by his dad, he gets the community leader involved. The dad is also traumatized. So I want to help Ahmed. How can I do that? The easiest way is to give a donation to the large international organization. But how much of that money actually Ahmed sees? Research shows money put into aid is most effective if it strengthens, empower, and respect local structures and people. I'm frustrated having worked over a decade in war zones in a system that refers to the people with the best English and the best MBA and not to actual change makers like Ahmed, who can hold a child's hand and get that dad to dance too. Myself, I started a charity in 2007 in Syria, a long time before the war, called Capoeira for Refugees. So I was running the classes, kids came, they brought their friends, and we started working in safe houses, in prisons, with Iraqi, Palestinian refugees. It was all before the war. But over the time, we reached around 100,000 children, and I was very proud. I was really happy because we also left a lot of local footsteps. So basically, we expanded working in Jordan, in Palestine, basically around the MENA region. And we always, I'd say, closed our offices after 3 years because we trained up local trainers and basically handed over the projects to the local trainers, who then worked with our partners like, Save the Children, IRC, NRC, and so forth and so forth. But this is not the story I'm going to tell you because I had a big problem. Basically, the problem was that over the time, I could not teach anymore, spend time with the kids. Basically, as soon you're getting involved in the system, you have to do the indicators, log frames, input, output. So I was just basically working behind the computer. And this is basically my frustration. A big problem is, I have a couple of slides also, I want to share them with you. The big problem was that the aid industry, one second, here we go. Here we go, sorry, I have to throw up. The big problem was basically that the aid industry wanted to work with this guy on the left, but I got my phone. I was the guy on the right here in, where was this? Al-Tanf refugee camp. So if you're a large international organization, you want to do a large organization, a large donation, who do you trust? The guy on the left or the guy on the right? And if you like a child in a refugee camp like Salma, so who would she trust? And the problem is basically the system wants the guy on the left, but the kids want the guy on the right. Before we going into the tech, because it's a session about tech, I think it's very important just to look at the underlying issues. Why local initiatives have such a struggle basically to receive aid money. There is the Grand Bargain Initiative, which was in 2016 the World Humanitarian Summit, where 20 governments came together, the UN organizations, all the large international organizations, because in 2016 international aid money was just like receiving, like on the receiving end to local organization was only 0.3%. And the Grand Bargain is an initiative, they wanted to change this by 2020 to 25%. And we are far away from making that happen. So currently we have 2020, it's still under 2%. And it's ridiculous. And this is my frustration, and not my frustration, there are millions of people, of course, because local initiatives, they are not having access to money, because you can only have access to money if you can handle the paperwork. This is what the slide says as well. So there's the underlying factors, basically, why local initiatives don't receive support. So you have the paperwork, which, you know, draws us, because, yeah, we can't handle it. Who can really apply for those massive grants when you have to fill in like tons of log frames and proposals, and you wasting your time then applying basically with tons of other organizations. So it's local initiative that can't do that. The other problem is nobody knows that they're there, so they have no visibility. And also, of course, no trust because of this. So you can only create trust when you have FaceTime with people. So I moved around 2.5 years from Jordan to Berlin. I was the last 15 years in Syria, especially. So I'm half Syrian, half German. Spent time in Palestine, spent time in Jordan. Basically, you know, had to run the organization, did the bookkeeping, did the printing, did the training with the kids. I also did an audit, that's why I have gray hair. I was basically doing everything, but every local initiative, they knows that. You basically have to wear a lot of different hats. So how can you manage the expectations of the people you work with, the expectation with the community to work with, manage the donors? Basically, you don't have time for anyone, or only a little bit, basically. So, and that's why it's basically, it was very frustrating for me when I heard about the Grand Bargain, you know, that it was only 0.3% towards local initiatives, because I was like, okay, no wonder that we are struggling, because we had a successful project. We won awards, the Charity of the Year last year. I mean, we had a lot of success in terms of the project, but to translate this into connections, translate this into receiving financial support, it was impossible. Anyway, since I moved to Berlin, I started a Frontline Aid project, where basically we're trying to get rid of the middleman in the development sector. We trying to cut tape, because the big questions we have, maybe the big questions of the whole session, is like, how do we make our desire to help most effective? We decided basically to cut red tape and supporting local initiatives and make sure they don't need even a computer. So we're doing this through real-time data. We just go to the next slide. So basically real-time data, where we see Abdallah, we see his project. I will go later into the details in terms of the tech, but just for now, just to get an idea, I think is like basically a real-time overview of, you know, this Abdallah runs a project. We receive constant updates on, you know, tasks. We have a shared task tool. We making sure that we see monitoring evaluation data, which is working on offline. It is GPS stamped. These are basically essential things, but let's say his tasks are basically match-made with supporters, which are also can be volunteers, who then basically match-make the skills. Somebody needs a connection, somebody needs a design of a t-shirt. And now let's say the network we have here in Berlin basically allows us to have a lot of people involved to support those initiatives directly. This is right now a pilot project, but it's not, I mean, we are in this community since 2012. So we are restoring parks and schools, I mean, school rooms, because there are no places basically to have activities with local initiatives. Raqqa is totally destroyed. It's like 60% of Raqqa is destroyed, 20% totally destroyed. So basically they have like around 55,000 children or more, it's hard to count anyway. And there are like around 40 schools, and how many of those schools are actually basically running is a handful. So basically we decided to use the network we have. And this is, again, it's just an example. I think you can do this with all cultural activity who already have a network. So basically we are asking through the network we have, especially the mummies, you know, what are your top priorities? And the top priorities they said basically were like, we need safe spaces. We want to make sure that we can go to the park, we can socialize. Our kids have a place to go again. And so we get this information, and we basically use our communities in around 40 initiatives, and they have met and asked what, you know, who can actually do those activities, who can restore spaces and so forth. And then they basically went on to say, like, okay, they have decided themselves, you know, who can do that. And then basically now we're restoring those 10 schools and parks. But it's not our project, it's basically their project. We're basically saying, you know, we give them some financial support so they can start, but then we're deciding about milestones. And every time a milestone has, you know, achieved, then the agreed money, we said, this is what you will get, will be freed. And there's an independent local organization basically who goes there and say, like, okay, it's done, it's not done. The problem I see always is like, there are a lot of initiatives, and if you're on the ground, you see what's going on, but we also have to deal with our donors, and our donors have like those tons of due diligence, tons of basically all the reporting, and this is what, again, a local initiative can't do. Let me change to another slide. So I just want to say, like, this slide shows basically us what we will get on a daily basis. And if we need more information, basically we take up the phone and then we call to write the report. This is part of the onboarding, what I just said. We don't need to go into the details here. It's basically still something where we're looking at what is the donor want, what the local initiative can do, and what is the best practice. For example, you know, in terms of the due diligence, you know, there's different policies. We're doing an online test. At least the local initiative have to go back to the document and read it. I can say most of the documents, when I see there's a document over 20 pages, usually goes like, okay, where do I have to sign, right? Or you get an app and you say, okay, where's the agreement? So basically what we're trying to do, we're looking really at best practices. And one really important thing of the best practice is when we're looking at the reporting. And as part of the Grand Bargain Initiative, the Germans developed a reporting format called 8+3 template, which is used by, you know, OCHA and more organizations. Basically, every time you get a grant, they have their own reporting, they have their own proposal format. We using this 8+3 reporting format. We still think it's still way too ambitious, basically, for a local initiatives to fill in. So they need really help with this. But we basically not taking any financial support if the donor doesn't agree. This is the reporting format we will use. And the real-time data basically gives us the information that we can do the reporting quite quickly. Again, and when we need more information, then we call. This slide basically is what I just said before. Now we're using some sort of smart contracts. There's a real-time dashboard, and we're really trying to get rid of the middleman, because we are, the local initiative, they only need a red tape. I have to speed up a little bit because I said 25 minutes. So it's another 5-6 minutes. For example, the onboarding is something where we're really proud of, because usually to onboard an initiative takes ages. The way we are basically doing it is you can see there's only a timeline, which they can just take a picture from and then give us some voiceover. We're trying to digitalize this more and more, but right now it's basically, this is some sort of milestone. They can, in 1 minute, basically give us an information in terms of, who they are, what they want to do. So we have a slight idea, but then we have a couple of sessions where a mentor speaks to this local initiatives and then fills in like some sort of an onboarding formula, where basically we're getting all the information, who you are, what do you want, who are the partners, what are your goals, are you an initiatives, are you an organization? But we would interview you, so we would not ask you to fill in anything. So again, it's really important for us that the local initiative, they only need a smartphone. Of course, they can fill in information if they want to, but they don't have to. And so we cut the onboarding from months into 4 sessions, basically, 4 45-minute sessions. And so then we have already an idea in terms of what is the local initiative, what do they want. Then there's a policy check. And then basically the next thing is would be they would get the dashboard, and then already sharing the tasks, so we can help more effective, basically. I want to speak a little bit about the tech in detail. So as you can see, like a change maker, basically they give a support request. It goes to a mentor, which creates a task on a dashboard. Everybody who's logged in basically can see what's going on. And then basically volunteers can pick up those tasks, and it goes back to the mentor. And the mentor will or fix the problem if there's something else need to be done, and then send it back basically to change makers. Over the years, I think this is all, we work the same like this, right? If we can't fix the problem ourselves, then we ask somebody who can, right, in our network. But the problem was always that, it's all personal relationship, and how many relationship basically can you manage? And for me was always the problem, you cannot just always ask people if you need something, right? You have to drink the tea and so forth. So what we basically did is having those, those real-time dashboard. Sorry, I'm not there yet. Basically having that real-time dashboard, so volunteers can pick up the task, inspired by all the other volunteers who are also involved, and then basically fix the problem, being part of it. So it's very important to have to create a space where you have a personalized connections, and the project is not owned by us. It's really owned by the local initiative, by Ahmed. This slide is about decisions and approval. So as you can see, we have to look into, okay, who's getting the money, and who am I to really make a decision in terms of, who gets the financial support? Because I don't want to make a decision on, who sends me the best pictures, and again, who sends me the best written proposal, because those are the only two things I actually have. And we don't need to do this anymore because we see real-time data. We see what their goals are. And if we have money available, then we could just give you the money without you needing to apply for it, right? And this is basically in terms of, you know, the sea change, which I see. We need to see what's going on the ground, having personalized connections with those initiatives, and making sure that we, support when they need something without them, again, spending their time behind the computer and applying and so forth and so forth. In terms of who gets the money at the end of the day, it's basically, we have our advisory committee, which is local, who visit the projects, again, who says like thumbs up, thumbs down, and the decentralized decision as well, because there's a tool called Lumio, which is quite awesome. Francesca Pick had also a session, I think it was yesterday, with Wellgrounded. She speaks a lot about decentralized decision making. So basically, it's a tool where people are saying, yeah, thumbs up, thumbs down. It's like some sort of check room, creates a pie chart, which in different colors and sizes. So for example, if a lot of people, like in our case, they said like, we want, you know, safe spaces. It was a big fat green pie chart. So from the donor perspective, basically, you can see straight away what the local community needs. But you can also go into details if you want and find out, okay, how that decision basically was made. What the issue I have right now as well is, for example, I'm the general manager. You can see like there's a decision made from the ground. I have a veto, but I never need to use it so far. The veto is only if there's a really red flag, if it's on a sanction list, if there's some terror or something really hasn't happened on the ground, if it's a red flag. But otherwise, we can sign off, in terms of local initiative, in terms of who gets the money and so forth. Let me just go to another slide, because the project basically we're running is run by volunteers, a lot of volunteers. We have a couple of pro bono, organizations, BMW Foundation helping us, the Global Diplomacy Lab, different basically organizations who are supporting with the whole project. But right now, this is basically the goal. So what now we have right now, we have a real-time dashboard. We get monitoring evaluation information. We get task management information. We basically see what's going on the ground. Our project manager, we call him mentor, because we also want to make sure the language, the hierarchy of the language is flat, basically sees what's going on and doesn't need to only read, right? All those reports and so forth. And basically the project manager is inspired. The project manager sees what's going on the ground. We can help more efficient. We don't need to wait again for our midterm report and then see like, oh, we could actually have helped here and there. We can do it on a daily basis. And the network we have, and when we're speaking about users, are the supporters who are, internationally. They can also be on the ground, of course. But also it's really inspiring to really see what's going on a daily basis on the ground. Over the next, I say months, years, basically, we're really trying to disrupt how funding is distributed. The project right now, like again, it's in Raqqa, in Syria, and a couple of other initiatives we are supported already through the years. They're using those tools, and we're fixing the bugs, and we're trying to develop different things, because lots of those tech things, they're quite expensive and nobody can afford it, especially not as a charity. So that's why we created this Frontline Aid project. But at the end of the day, we are now able to support way more initiatives. It's way more inspiring. We're trying to launch a beta version as well, where other initiatives can use it as well towards the end of the year. But we really have to focus right now on Syria and Raqqa. There is so much to do, but it's a web app where everybody can use it by the end of the day. It's of course for free for local initiatives. Large organization cannot use it, basically. So we were approached by Save the Children, but Save the Children is only a supporter when we're looking at users. They cannot say that's their own project because it's a local initiative at the end of the day. But of course they can support, but not supporting their project. This project was made to make the lives easier for local initiatives. And which means, of course, admin is on our side. We have to do a lot of admin, a lot of due diligence, a lot of writing. But, you know, having basically a clear tasks and having so much, you know, people basically who want to help and don't know where to go to help, it's great because, you know, through, let's say, those matchmaking, this task management, basically, we were able to get lots of people. We have like around 40 people right now involved in just like in the helping. Then we're having the project on the ground. We have over 30 people working on the Frontline 8 project in terms of tech, user experience, you know, back end, front end, and so forth. And everybody's basically inspired because we finally see what's going on the ground. Let me see my time, how much time. Oh, I'm talking too much. Okay, I think I have my 25 minutes, but I know one of the big questions maybe for you would be also, I would really like to hear is like, you know, how can we put locals into the driving seat? And I really would like to open up the floor if there are any questions. And I'm stop sharing now.
Thank you very much, Tarek. I think maybe we're going to take a couple of minutes to launch a poll for people to respond to, and give people a couple of minutes to fill in the poll. And also, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to put them into the chat. I see a few questions in there already. And in about 2 minutes, we'll start asking some of the questions. So if everyone can have a look at the poll, it should have popped up on your screen.
I propose to keep on to discuss, because it's a long poll and people take time to fill the poll. Just 7 people till now, so I propose to continue talking, and when it's finished, I will tell you.
Sounds great. Thank you, Guillaume. So Tarek, one of the questions that's been asked here is about who the frontline aid donors are. So are you working with institutional donors like the EU or DFID, or is it specifically individuals and foundations who fund the local initiatives?
Okay, we're having a couple of things, right? There's the charity itself called Capoeira for Refugees, which is around since 2007, who runs the project, and, you know, supporting those local initiatives directly. But as a charity, we're never allowed to raise money for development. So that's why we created Frontline Aid, which is right now a social for-profit organization registered in Germany. We are trying to get the charity status right now, but Germany is quite complex and it takes forever. But the donors basically are we're getting a lot of people involved through the charity, and we're getting the Robert Bosch Foundation gave us some financial support. They helped us with user experience, basically personal connection. So we don't really have money in Frontline Aid at all. And if you look at the web app, it costs easily more than $1 million basically to develop this. And we run everything right now on pro bono and volunteer basis. There's free leads where we're getting yeah, like just some incentives basically, who are coordinating all the different people as well. But like basically there's no money involved in frontline aid, because you have to develop the product first so that everybody can use it, and then you can do fundraising with it. Right now we're testing it, but again, the local people are already using it, and it's yeah, working really well.
Thank you. There was another question that you had asked, Tarek, that I'm just going to put out to the group again, which is around how can we put locals into the driving seat in development initiatives? If people have any thoughts on that question, please feel free to write into the chat box any of your reflections and feedback. There's another question here about the application process, I think. And is it personalized, or can it be used in any kind of project?
I mean, because we are referring to the this template, this 8+3 template, so we're speaking about humanitarian aid. This is what we can do with, let's say, this web app. Right now, because you know, there's a lot of information on the projects which are confidential, because again, there was like ISIS, it's still chaos, it's still a war zone, so it's not open for the public yet. What we are working on basically is creating the beta version for the open public, so that's basically people can use it. But our idea basically is, in the first run, going to foundations, and there are already a couple of foundations who are interested in this project, who helping basically with the whole onboarding, with the due diligence, because we don't want to do the diligence, right? So we have to look at, okay, there's Frontline Aid, which is a platform. There's Capoeira for Refugee, which is a charity, which using the platform. Basically, if other organizations or initiatives want to use that platform, Capoeira doesn't necessarily manage those, you know, don't put the mentor in, doesn't put the funding in. We can only run the projects we know from our work, which are related to, you know, psychosocial health, mental health, and so forth. So basically, if a foundation comes on and say like, okay, we want to use parts of the platform, they're having their own projects basically, and saving time, money, and getting inspiration through that. So basically, our next step would go through foundations. If there's some initiatives who want to work with that platform, then they would also need to find their own, you know, mentor or supporters, because yeah, let's say they don't need to find them, but we can't guarantee as Frontline Aid that we have so much supporters who basically helping with your project straight away. This is the goal, but again, we have to grow, you know, the chicken egg. We have to grow enough supporters on the one hand, and on the other hand, we have to grow enough local initiatives. So right now we're around like 40 initiatives, which is already a lot to handle. I hope I answered that question. Yeah.
Thank you. I have a question as well, which is a little bit about the real-time data that you were mentioning becomes a big part of the platform, the online platform, and helps to address the issue of sort of trust and giving information to donors and that kind of thing. So what kind of real-time data are you capturing, and how are you doing that? Or how are the local initiatives doing that?
Okay, so the real-time data is basically a couple of things. So there is the monitoring evaluation on site, qualitative and quantitative data. So we're speaking about places where there's no internet available all the time. But let's say there is a sport class, you know, you basically capture, you know, how many people you train, girls, boys, and so forth. That's part of it. The qualitative data we also capturing because we basically interviewing the community, and they can just speak into the phone, and that will be tagged. That creates word clouds and so forth. You can do sort of different monitoring evaluation surveys. We usually use one called the most significant change. I don't know if you want me to go in there into the detail. It's basically a storytelling, qualitative data measuring. And the other real-time data basically is tasks. I mean, those are really important as well because, you know, a local initiative creating their task, but it's a shared task system, which again is match-made with the mentor and on a task sharing dashboard where supporters basically can pick up the task. This is also in real-time data, I'd say. And the other real-time data is basically for us was always the problem. How do we get some pictures, right? So we have to look into some people using WhatsApp, some people using Instagram, some people using Facebook, and so forth. Basically, all the different platforms basically coming together. So we see what's going on the ground. And if we have to write a report or if we have to update or help updating their profile page, then this data is available. That's basically it in terms of real-time data. So forth, in the future, we talking about data sets, but we're not really there yet. That's so forth what we're having there.
Thank you. So if anybody has a question that they'd like to ask directly, you're welcome to do that. You can also raise your hand in the chat or in the participant list, or keep asking questions in chat as well. So there's a question here about if you had to describe the application in a few words, what would you say its main function is? Is it about transferring money? Is it about monitoring? Is it about something else? How would you sort of describe it?
I mean, the web app is basically there to get rid of the middleman. Again, we're trying to do directly connections between supporters and local initiatives, paperless, basically. Let's say my experience in terms of running an organization, again, handling all those different balls in the air. I have let's say, had a pretty good idea in terms of what a local initiative actually needs. With directly feedback with those local initiatives on the ground. So that's, I think it's quite important basically to get like, basically building the tools with the end user. But, back what we're trying to do is, creating upward accountability, basically validate top-down project priorities, address information gaps and minimalize the ability for local authorities to use assistance as a favor, right? Because for example, if you want to give, you have to always go through the local, municipality, basically, and usually or often they're supporting, their relatives. I don't want to say it's general, but this is basically what happens. Basically, is all this, favoritism. But they're only one user, like a lot of other users. That's why it doesn't play such a big role in terms of using that, transparency, real-time data.
Thank you. Someone is wondering whether you work sort of globally or are you working in specific countries at the moment?
I mean, we are, it's just because of our background. It's basically Syria and, the MENA region. So we are at the first bit started to have Arabic and English as the main languages of that web app. But because left and right, right and left, it's basically possible to use it in all languages. I would say, I mean, yeah, that's basically the Middle East, but we have a couple of projects we support, which are in Brazil, there's one in Iran, there's one in Germany even, but it's more basically for testing the product, the Frontline 8 platform.
So you're testing it in a few countries at the moment with the idea of using it more globally in the long term.
Yeah.
And another question was just around how much the application costs.
I mean, it will be for free for all grassroots initiatives. I mean, we have a lot of running costs again, which are, supported by goodwill people mainly. But let's say the whole development right now in terms of getting the, let's say, beta version so that everybody basically can use it, to that place basically is something what is run on pro bono basis. But yeah, again, later we don't want, we trying basically to create an organization which doesn't really have running costs. That's basically the goal of it, right? I know it's always, people smile, usually there have to be an admin, and probably this is more or less one of the only persons basically who have to really be on top of it. But a lot of project management can be done on volunteer and support basis. Again, if you have a, if you run a project, there's always a project manager, which we call mentor. This person is usually paid by the charity or the foundation. So it's not our cost at the end of the day, right? But basically, this is the goal, to have really no running costs.
There's a question here about whether you find that Wi-Fi internet access is a roadblock for the grassroots initiatives that want to use the platform.
Yes, there is. So basically, the infrastructure of the web app, I don't need to go into the design language, but so right now we're storing information on our phone, and once internet is available, it's basically uploads to a cloud. Theoretically, you can do this also with with SMS basically, but in our case, there is internet from time to time, but also if you want to run it through, through a phone and through SMS, you have to make sure there's a toll-free number, right? So you have to speak to the telecommunication provider basically to give that toll-free number, or basically finding some sort of agreement that there is a toll-free number. It's definitely possible to integrate, because everything what we've done basically is modular, and it's also open source. So you basically can use the, let's say, SMS instead of using, internet, for example. So it's possible, but we haven't focused it on it because we have internet from time to time.
Great, thank you. There's also a question around data protection. So who is the owner of the data at the end of who's the end owner?
Good question. So the local initiative basically is the owner of the data, right? Basically, they decide what sort of the data is public and which is not public. Germany has a very stringent data protection law, and we have to adhere to this. So we have a couple of pro bono lawyers basically setting up, or basically have set up most of the work. But again, the local initiative is the owner of the data. Basically, we don't want to come in and being a new middleman, right? Because basically what we're trying to be is that basically Emily can support Ahmed directly. So you will go through us and go to Ahmed. What we're trying to do basically is that you can do it with Ahmed directly. For example, if you want to donate money, currently as a charity is not possible because Ahmed doesn't have a bank account. So this is where we come in. If you don't have a bank account, then the only way is Emily says, like, we want to support projects like Ahmed, and let's say we're collecting 1,000 euros from here and there, then we can give those 1,000 to initiatives like Ahmed. But it's not possible in the law that you basically can do it one-to-one to Ahmed directly, which is ridiculous because he has no bank account. So then basically then we have to ask for a service, because then we really have to, making sure that, for example, in Syria, getting money again through a middleman, going over the border, handing out the money, getting a receipt, and so forth. Then there's a bit of work involved. This is where we have to take a fee. But if there isn't a bank account, then not. I mean, of course, we're trying to find better ways. But for example, in Raqqa, there is no digital currency available. Otherwise, we can also go around this sooner or later. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to ask one more question, and then I think we'll go to the poll results. So there's a question here around the onboarding process and how long the onboarding process takes.
Okay, so the onboarding process is you can go to the website, which is not public right now, and you can sign in as a supporter, or you can sign in as a change maker. So I assume it's right now the onboarding process as a change maker or an individual project. Basically, the first step takes a minute. So we receive an email, you will get a calendar invite. Basically, you can pick a date for a mentor, and then you arrange a call. And in this call, basically, there is a form which we will walk you through. There's a video available. You can already do this timeline if you want and sketch it, but you don't have to. And then I would interview you when I'm the mentor, and usually it takes up to 3 sessions, are 45 minutes. Sometimes there's, we do a longer session. It really depends. But those 3 sessions basically gives us an idea of who you are, what you want to do, and how, and start working on the milestones, because the milestones are the most complex thing. So there's a lot of, let's say, this mentoring and helping to find, the milestones, the indicators, how you measure that, all of this. But basically, we will do it with you or for you. And this takes a chunk of time, but we don't want to make sure this is completely ready before, and then you're allowed to use the dashboards and so forth. So basically, there is, there's a part of the milestones which are already ready. You go through the policies with us. And again, there's a test, an online test. All the policies are available online. And then on our side, we check references. Yeah, that's basically it. Then you can already use the platform. Before, you can use only parts of the platform, which is not public. Yeah.
And you said you can either onboard as a change maker, or you can onboard as a donor, essentially?
Yeah, supporter. I mean, supporter are, let's say a large international, or any international organization. A supporter could be a mentor. A mentor is somebody who has more time on regular basis, or like a volunteer, which, using, I don't know, have a couple of hours a week or a month, basically. Yeah, so this onboarding process is, of course, way quicker. But also for the supporter, there's a certificate you have to get before you can directly being in touch with the local initiatives. Because in our case, there's definitely lots of local initiatives. They're vulnerable themselves. So we want to make sure that the people who are supporting them, are basically trusted. So there's like 2 levels of tasks basically you can do. Yeah.
Great, thank you. I think we're going to go to the poll. Guillaume, did you want to summarize the sort of poll results? And then Tarek, maybe you want to comment on them?
There you go.
Can you see them there?
Yeah. Let me see. So we're saying basically here, the first question was, what software does the organization currently use? Yeah, I mean, it's a bit what I expected. So you have basically comms, you do task sharing, do monitoring, evaluation, and there's some who do contact management system as well. I like basically these questions, because if you compare it often with, I don't know who else is in that talk today, because I assume you run projects yourself, you're maybe an initiative, or you're an organization, or maybe a foundation. So you basically have a clear idea how to run this project or the projects themselves. My problem was always when, I'm in the field, I actually don't have the money basically to pay for all those different softwares, because all the software is available, they're all there, but you need pro versions and they don't speak in the back end with one another. That was always our problem. And that's why, if you have all those different tools in separate places, it was for me really challenging. So yeah, I can, but yeah, that's basically what I would say to those poll. And so most of the initiative, it's under 3,000 a year. Like I said, if we did a comparison in terms of what do we need to have a version which can speak in different software which can speak to the other softwares, basically you come up with like, easy over $3,000 a year, basically, if you want to use all of that. Which is a pity. Some, software providers, they give for charity free licenses, but most of them, they don't. And that's not even the problem. The problem is always to make sure the whole team is using it, right? And doing the research and so forth. That's why we're trying to really put it all together. So what software does community support use? Okay, yeah, that's also quite clear. If you think about as a donor, all the software you use, and at the end of the day, the people running the project, most of them, they don't have access to software and to those tools which are essential. And this basically shows exactly the discrepancy we have, because the local initiative, they need that support. We're just speaking right now about tech, but also I'm speaking about resources. I wish that if you're a foundation, let's say an international organization, you go in and working with the local initiative and not like, trying to monitor or trying to, basically running your own show and just giving money as support, because support is hands-on, based on needs first of all. And this is, you have to drink the tea and you have to shut up and you have to listen. And the software is just an enabler for creating trust, visibility, and cutting the paperwork. I mean, not more I want to claim is what we're trying to do. We're just trying to solve those three things, basically. Yeah, but thanks a lot for the poll results. It's quite staggering if you see like what the local initiatives basically has. Yeah.
Oops. Thank you, Tarek.
Yeah.
I'm just going to share, there's was a comment, an answer to the question about how do we put locals in the driving seat. And someone responded that in their view, in order to put locals in the driving seat, you need to assess their potential, take into account what they're good at, and put in place the means to develop that potential and support them. So I just wanted to share that with everybody. Thank you for that contribution. Unless there is any last, we could have time for one last question if anybody wants to pop one in there. Otherwise, I would ask Tarek, is there any information that you would like to share or that you could share with people after this session?
Yes, I can. I'm happy to share some more information in terms of what we are doing and how it works, and some advice on the tech stuff. But like again, for us is at the moment really the problem in terms of we cannot really expand further than what we are doing already, because we don't have a foundation who's supporting the whole thing. And so I would love to keep involved, because I would like to see, once the beta version is out, basically, that you can also use it for your own projects for free. And like I said, in terms of development, all of this, we're looking at a lot of money which we already put in and experience we put in. So we would love to have this, that more and more organization can use it. It's not a for-profit model as well. So we really hope that more initiatives basically are able to use that. So yeah, even for this part. The other thing is what we're trying to do, and this was another session from Chowdhury, is doing the advocacy. She's writing this book about United Nonsense, right? We want to shake the tree as well. And basically, we have to do advocacy as well. So the advocacy was basically to say, like, there is something wrong here. The tech stuff we're doing is like, okay, this is like one of the solutions, not the solutions, one of the solutions. And we're running the projects ourselves on the ground as well. So that's basically a package what we're trying to do. So I think it's really important as well, if you want to keep involved, to also look at hashtag United Nonsense, or follow on LinkedIn and social media basically. Obama is supporting the book as well, so we're really hoping to get enough momentum basically, and enough people who are wondering where the money goes basically, to see what is actually happening with it. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much. And I believe people can, there is a LinkedIn page and a Facebook page directly connected to the Enough for Change event, where the video from the session will be, and also if there are additional materials that Tarek shares, they'll be posted there as well.
Yeah, I put my email in the chat, tarek@frontline8.org, so you can always reach out to me, or again, LinkedIn.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
And a huge thank you, Tarek, for your time today and for sharing your story and information about this initiative. Thank you so much. Also, thank you to everybody who joined the session today, and to my co-moderator and to Well Grounded for organizing this event. Tomorrow, you'll see in the chat, there's some information about what's happening tomorrow. The theme tomorrow is learning and support in the digital age. And the first session is from 9 to 10 a.m. UK time. And it's about managing teams collaboratively and remotely with Asana, which is another software. So hopefully some of you will join that session. And yeah, thank you so much. Have a great day or evening, depending on where you are in the world. I don't know if Guillaume, did you want to say anything? Or Tarek, did you have any last words?
Je veux juste te dire merci. Merci Émilie, merci Tarek, et merci Philippe. Thank you to everyone. Congratulations and thank you to all participants. Merci à tout le monde d'être présent. Et voilà, on continue demain, puisque c'est pas encore terminé. We keep on tomorrow, just in French, but everyone is welcome.
All right. Also, thanks a lot. I know it was a lot to take in, and it's not. Yeah, I try to be as clear as it's hard when it's IT language translate. Yeah, we're getting there. But thanks a lot for listening. Have a great day, everybody.
A lot of pleasure. A lot of pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you so much. Au revoir tout le monde. Merci beaucoup. Thank you.